I'm Brian Westbrook at GeekWire Studios here at AWS reInvent 2025, joined now by Taoufiq Boussaid, Chief Financial Officer of Lucid Motors, and we have Jake Wilson, PricewaterhouseCoopers Principal. Congratulations on being here and making it to this incredible show. First of all, first impressions out of the gate. What do you think so far?
Well, really impressed. First time for me attending these kind of events at this scale and this magnitude. And I think it tells something about the future of AI, the impact that AWS has on corporate globally, so it's great to be here.
And we're very excited to talk about specifically what you're doing with PwC and AI, using AI. But I want to ask Jake, you've been to cloud tech conferences before, you've been in the technology space for a while. What are your first impressions out of the gate?
You know, I think AWS reInvent is always a great conference, one of the larger tech conferences for sure. What I like about the theme around AWS reInvent though is all the builder sessions, right? They really focus on the developer community. How do you take advantage of the latest AWS capabilities to, like what we're doing at, Lucid Motors with GenAI transformation using a lot of those components on the AWS stack. So really great for developers, really great to get hands-on and really, dig in.
And I know you probably can't see, but right behind you here on the show floor at AWS reInvent is the developer community. So nice work there. Let's talk about the financial function transformation. You've had a lot of challenges at Lucid Motors, and you've really honed in on using Agent OS to really transform your financial stack and your financial operations. Tell us about those challenges and why that collaboration with PwC was impactful.
Yeah, so think about it this way. A company is a set of competitive advantages, and you get value by making the best of these competitive advantages. Finance is not typically seen as a competitive advantage. Sometimes it's seen as the necessary evil, doing things in Excel and trying to manage the governance aspects and things like that. And this is what we needed to move from. I needed to reposition finance as a competitive advantage, and I couldn't do it in the traditional way. So that's why when PwC came to us and pitched the project, I immediately saw the potential. How can we leverage technology, artificial intelligence, to move away from finance, which is taking care of governance, doing finance, relying on ERPs, to something which is impacting the business and becoming a competitive advantage, the same way as engineering is a competitive advantage, the same way as our supply chain is a competitive advantage, and bringing all this together to create more value in the company.
It's a very interesting way of thinking because, to your point, you don't normally think of finance as the reason why your stakeholders, your customers, your shareholders really care about Lucid Motors. But what have they said after you've gone through this process and so they're seeing some of the early results? What has been the response?
Well, the first obvious result was that we were moving from transactional to strategic. So the fact of being able to not only analyze the past, but predict the future and be able to accelerate the decision-making process, relying on a huge set of data that a human brain cannot process, making sense out of it, identifying all the dependencies, and coming up with a decision-making process much faster, more reliable, is a complete game changer for the company at all levels.
And Jake, let's talk about that technology.
Yeah.
For those that are not familiar, walk us through what Agent OS is and how it really made a difference here in this collaboration.
Yeah, if you look at my role within PwC, I've been helping drive our GenAI transformation internally within PwC across our advisory businesses, and similar to Lucid Motors, right? Like, how do we truly transform ourselves with generative AI? As we went through that process, dating a couple years back, really nascent technology, we found we were having to stitch a lot of things together and really a lot of work to scale things for the enterprise. So, as we were going through that process, we created accelerators. We didn't aim, to create Agent OS, it's just something that kind of naturally evolved out of our own GenAI transformation, and now we kind of take those learnings in code and infrastructure to our clients like Lucid Motors to help accelerate the transformation. So if you think about Agent OS, it's really, like I said, code and infrastructure to help accelerate agentic transformation, whether that's on AWS or even other cloud providers, and how to kind of stitch all that together.
One of the things that our viewers are going to be wondering about is the governance and security aspects of this. Obviously, any business transformation project needs to keep these pillars in mind. How did you do that with AgentOS, and what were the thinking around keeping that in the through line of this project?
Yeah, I think, when you're transforming something like the CFO office and all the finance processes, security and governance is a big thing as part of that. So when you think about all the tech to deploy the agents, to scale the agents, to get them to collaborate, to communicate with back-end systems like an SAP and things like that, AgentOS helps accelerate us and kind of connect all that together while running native on the AWS stack. But then we bring the additional elements of security and governance on there in terms of how do you flow the authentication, to make sure that when I'm invoking the agent's not accessing information back in systems or exposing information that it shouldn't be, right? And how do I control that based upon the folks that are interacting with the agents in the finance office, versus someone else trying to come in adversarially and try and gain access to that, confidential information. The other thing we do on the back end too is all the agent monitoring and tracing, right, to make sure that, once we deploy the agents into production, how are these agents actually performing, right? And analyzing all the human feedback with the agents to better improve the agents over time to help make sure that we're actually getting to the value that the business needs to drive that transformation.
And how's the transformation been going? What would you say? Let's pretend Jake's not here. What's your assessment so far?
Well, it has been great. It has been great. I mean, the good thing about this project is it tends to scare people. Whenever you go to a company and you say, we're going to implement this system, this ERP, this agent, immediately we think about an 18-month project, something which will take forever, mobilize the whole company. And here it has been great because it has been very fast. From the moment we did the prototype to the moment we saw the first results, it took less than 10 weeks. So we didn't have to manage, the anxiety of my CEO telling me, okay, where are you spending your money and how can I see the outcome? In 10 weeks, I was able to tell him, okay, this is what we spent and this is the outcome. So it's really great to be able to see a project developing so fast and bringing real output, relevant output for the business.
You were able to launch the project and then show results between board meetings. Not a long project. That's fantastic. What's in the future, gentlemen? What will we be talking about moving forward? How is enterprise AI going to scale? And what advice would you have for those embarking on this journey?
Well, I think that the first thing is that you need to take a leap of faith. You need to give it a try. You go for it. You iterate and you see the reason. I don't think that you should spend time analyzing, designing and things like that. You need to go and start with it and you will be most likely surprised how fast and how good it is. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that you need to be very clear on the impacts that it has, because it's not something where you say, I will do it in an isolated part of the organization and it will have no impact on the rest. That's not the way it works. It will impact the whole organization, all the other functions, but beyond that, it will also impact the people. Because the way the people will do their jobs will be fundamentally different from the way they have been doing it so far. So the way we will be training our people will significantly shift. So it will go beyond just knowing how to build a pivot table and knowing the accounting rules and knowing how to do a forecast. It will evolve to something where we will need to teach our people how to speak to AI agents, how to get the best out of them, how to manage the data, how to find the right dependencies. And it's really an exciting horizon that it's opening for our people as well.
And the people are involved and it's not happening in a silo. Jay, closing thoughts to you.
Yeah, I think as you're hearing with the story here too, right, I think the capabilities that are here, you can squeeze a lot of value out of agentic capabilities, to manage large-scale transformations like what we're looking at with finance within Lucid Motors, but also across other aspects, of kind of the back office operations as well as front office, client experiences and how they experience your products and engage with you. So I mean, the tech's here. You'll hear a lot of that at the conference within an AWS reInvent. We're proving value quickly with Lucid Motors and other organizations. So very excited about what comes next, and obviously these capabilities continue to improve. And hopefully those transformations continue to happen faster. But even doing this between board meetings, I think is a good starting point, and how we infuse all the traditional ML with demand forecasting, scenario analysis, all of that into the agents to help benefit the finance professionals and help them move faster.
Well, incredible results, gentlemen. Congratulations on the success of the project. We look forward to hearing what is to come. And what I heard is PwC can do it in less than 10 weeks. You heard it here first with Jake Wilson. Thank you so much for joining us both. I'm Brian Westbrook with GeekWire Studios, and thanks for watching.